My name is Harper, and if you told me a year ago that my college graduation would be the loneliest day of my life, I would have laughed. I always thought that no matter what, my parents would be there for my big moments. I believed that even if they sometimes forgot the little things, they'd never miss the milestones. But I was wrong. Sometimes the people you expect to show up for you are the very ones who let you down the hardest. Growing up, I was the good kid. I did my homework, kept my room clean, and never got into trouble. My older sister, Olivia, was the wild one, always chasing excitement, always the center of attention. She was beautiful, magnetic, and unpredictable. My parents adored her, even when she made their lives difficult. I used to think that if I just worked hard enough, if I was just perfect enough, I'd earn the same kind of love. But the truth is, some people only have room in their hearts for one star. I remember the day I got my acceptance letter to college. I ran into the kitchen, waving the envelope, my heart pounding with excitement. My mom was on the phone with Olivia, laughing about something I couldn't hear. My dad was reading the newspaper, his glasses perched on the end of his nose. I got in, I shouted, holding up the letter. My mom smiled distractedly, gave me a thumbs up, and went back to her call. My dad nodded, barely looking up. I told myself it was enough. I told myself they were proud, even if they didn't say it. College was my escape. For the first time, I was somewhere no one knew me as Olivia's little sister. I made friends, joined clubs, and threw myself into my studies. I called home every Sunday, hoping for a little attention, a little validation. Most weeks, my calls went to voicemail. When my parents did answer, they asked about Olivia, how she was doing, if I'd heard from her, if she needed anything. I learned to keep my stories short, to tuck my disappointments away. By my senior year, I'd built a life for myself. I had a close group of friends, a part-time job at the campus library, and a GPA I was proud of. Graduation was coming up, and I was determined to make it special. I sent my parents the invitation months in advance, highlighted the date, and even offered to help with travel plans. We wouldn't miss it for the world, my mom promised. I believed her. A few weeks before graduation, Olivia called with big news. She was pregnant. My parents were over the moon. They started planning a baby shower, picking out decorations, and shopping for gifts. Every conversation was about Olivia and the baby. I tried to be happy for her, but a part of me ached. I wanted to be celebrated, just once. I wanted to be the one they fussed over. The week of graduation, I called home to confirm the details. My mom sounded distracted. Oh, honey, about your graduation, Olivia's baby shower is the same weekend. We can't be in two places at once. You understand, right? This is her first baby. It's a big deal. I felt the world tilt beneath me. But Mom, this is my college graduation. I worked so hard for this. She sighed. We're so proud of you, Harper, but Olivia needs us right now. We'll celebrate when we see you next, okay? I hung up, numb. I stared at my cap and gown, the invitation still pinned to my bulletin board. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg them to change their minds, but I knew it wouldn't matter. Olivia always came first. Graduation day arrived, and I walked across the stage alone. My friends' families cheered, waving signs and snapping photos. I scanned the crowd, hoping for a miracle, but my parents' seats were empty. After the ceremony, I posed for pictures with my friends, forcing a smile. I told them my parents were caught up with family stuff. I didn't want anyone's pity. That night, I sat in my apartment, scrolling through photos of Olivia's baby shower on social media. My parents were there, beaming, surrounded by balloons and gifts. Olivia glowed in every picture, her hand resting on her belly, my mom fussing over her, my dad grinning like he'd won the lottery. I felt invisible, erased from my own story. I spent the next few days in a fog. My parents sent a card, "Congratulations, Harper, we're so proud of you," with a $50 bill tucked inside. No phone call, no visit, just a card. I stared at it, wondering if this was all I was worth to them. But something inside me shifted. I was tired of being the afterthought, the backup plan, the one who always understood. I decided I wasn't going to let them erase my moment. If they couldn't show up for me, I'd show them what it felt like to be forgotten. That's when I came up with the idea for the box. I spent the next few days thinking about what I wanted to put in that box. It wasn't about revenge, not really. I didn't want to hurt my parents, but I needed them to feel, at least for a moment, what it was like to be left out of something important. I wanted them to see me, not just as Olivia's little sister, but as Harper, their daughter, who had worked so hard for something that mattered. I started with my graduation program. I circled my name in red ink, just like my teachers used to do when I got a perfect score. I added a copy of my diploma, the one I'd picked up from the registrar's office after the ceremony. I printed out photos of me in my cap and gown, standing with my friends, smiling for the camera. In every picture, there was an empty space where my family should have been. I wrote a letter, pouring out everything I'd never said. I told them how much it hurt to see them choose Olivia, again and again, even when it was my turn to be celebrated. I told them about the nights I'd spent studying, the jobs I'd worked to pay my tuition, the pride I felt when I walked across that stage. I told them I loved them, but I needed them to love me back, not just in words, but in actions. I included the card they'd sent with the $50 bill still inside. I wanted them to see how small it felt, how empty. I wanted them to know that money couldn't buy the feeling of being seen, of being valued. I packed everything carefully, wrapping it in tissue paper, sealing the box with tape. I addressed it to my parents, adding a note on top. Since you couldn't be there, I thought I'd bring graduation to you. I mailed it the next morning, my hands shaking as I handed it to the clerk at the post office. The days that followed were a strange mix of anxiety and relief. Part of me worried I'd gone too far, that my parents would be angry or hurt. But another part of me felt lighter, as if I'd finally spoken a truth I'd been carrying for years. I didn't know what would happen, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. A week later, my phone rang. It was my mom. I hesitated before answering, my heart pounding. "Harper?" she said, her voice small. "We got your box." There was a long silence. I waited, unsure what to say. Finally, she spoke again. "I didn't realize, I knew you were upset, but I didn't know it hurt you this much." I swallowed hard. "It did, Mom. It still does." She sighed. "Your father and we thought Olivia needed us more. We thought you'd understand." "I always understand," I said quietly, "but sometimes I wish you'd try to understand me, too." She was quiet for a long time. "I'm sorry, Harper. I really am. We should have been there." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to let go of the hurt, to forgive and move on, but I knew it would take time. "Thank you for saying that," I said. "It means a lot." After we hung up, I sat on my bed, staring at the ceiling. I felt a strange sense of peace, as if a weight had been lifted. For the first time, I'd stood up for myself, not with anger, but with honesty. I didn't know if things would ever be the same with my parents, but I knew I'd done what I needed to do. A few days later, my dad called. He didn't say much, just that he was proud of me, that he wished he'd been there, that he hoped we could start over. I told him I'd like that. I wanted to believe we could find a new way forward, one where I didn't have to fight so hard to be seen. Olivia called too. She sounded nervous, unsure. "I didn't know they were skipping your graduation," she said. "I'm sorry, Harper. I know it's not the same, but congratulations. I'm really proud of you." I thanked her, surprised by the sincerity in her voice. Maybe she understood more than I realized. Maybe we could find a way to be sisters, not just rivals. As the summer went on, I focused on building my own life. I started a new job, moved into a tiny apartment with peeling paint and creaky floors, and filled it with things that made me happy: books, plants, photos of my friends. I learned to celebrate my own victories, even if no one else was watching. I realized that I didn't need my parents' approval to be proud of myself. I didn't need their presence to make my achievements real. I was enough, just as I was. But I also knew that families are complicated, that love isn't always easy or fair. I hoped that in time, my parents would learn to see me, not just as Olivia's little sister, but as Harper, their daughter, who had something worth celebrating. The weeks after sending the box were quieter than I expected. My parents called a little more often, but the conversations were careful, as if we were all afraid of stepping on a bruise that hadn't healed. I tried to meet them halfway, answering their questions about my new job, my apartment, my friends. Sometimes I caught my mom pausing, as if she wanted to say something more, but the words never quite came. My dad was softer, too. He'd ask about my day, tell me he was proud, but there was a distance, a kind of regret that hung between us. Olivia's baby arrived in late August. My parents were overjoyed, and for a while, all the attention shifted to the new arrival. I sent a gift, a soft blanket I'd knitted myself, and a card that simply said, "Welcome to the world." Olivia called to thank me, her voice tired but happy. "He's beautiful, Harper. I wish you could meet him soon." I promised I would, and I meant it. I wanted to be a good aunt, even if I was still learning how to be a good daughter, a good sister, a good version of myself. One Saturday, my parents invited me home for dinner. It was the first time I'd been back since graduation. I almost said no, afraid of reopening old wounds, but something in my mom's voice made me agree. I packed an overnight bag, bought a bouquet of sunflowers, and took the train home. The house looked the same, but it felt different. There were baby photos of Olivia's son on the mantel, new toys scattered in the living room, and a stack of congratulatory cards on the kitchen table. My mom hugged me at the door, holding on a little longer than usual. My dad smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. For the first time in a long time, I felt like they were really seeing me. Dinner was awkward at first. We talked about work, about Olivia's baby, about the weather, but as the evening went on, the conversation turned to my graduation. My mom cleared her throat, her hands twisting in her lap. "I know we can't go back," she said quietly, "but I want you to know how sorry I am. We should have been there, Harper. You deserved that." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Thank you, Mom. That means a lot." My dad reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "We're proud of you, kiddo. We always have been. We didn't show it the way we should have." I looked at them, really looked, and saw the effort it took for them to say those words. I realized that forgiveness isn't a single moment. It's a choice you make, over and over, to let go of the hurt and make room for something new. After dinner, we sat in the living room, flipping through old photo albums. My mom pulled out pictures from my childhood, birthday parties, school plays, family vacations. For the first time, she lingered on the photos of me, telling stories I'd never heard, laughing at memories I'd forgotten. My dad joined in, teasing me about my crooked pigtails and my obsession with dinosaurs. I felt something inside me loosen, a knot I'd carried for years finally starting to unravel. Before I left the next morning, my mom handed me a small box. "I know it's not the same," she said, "but I wanted you to have this." Inside was a locket with my graduation date engraved on the back. I blinked back tears, hugging her tight. "Thank you, Mom." On the train ride home, I thought about everything that had happened. The disappointment, the anger, the box I'd sent, the conversations that followed. I realized that sometimes the only way to be seen is to make yourself visible, even if it means risking hurt. I realized that families aren't perfect, but they can change if you're willing to speak your truth and listen to theirs. Back in my apartment, I hung the locket on a hook by my door, a quiet reminder that I mattered, that my story was worth telling. I called Olivia, and we talked for an hour about her baby, about our parents, about the future. For the first time, it felt like we were equals, not rivals, not the favorite and the forgotten, but sisters. I started to share my story with others, friends, coworkers, even strangers online. I found that so many people had felt invisible, overlooked, or left behind by the people they loved most. I listened to their stories, offered comfort, and realized that I wasn't alone. My pain was real, but it wasn't unique, and that made it easier to bear.
As the months passed, my relationship with my parents continued to heal. There were still awkward moments, still things left unsaid, but there was also laughter and effort and a new kind of honesty. I learned to celebrate my own victories, to ask for what I needed, to forgive, not just them, but myself. If you're listening to my story and any part of it feels familiar, know this: you are not alone. You deserve to be seen, to be celebrated, to have your moment. Sometimes you have to send your own box, speak your own truth, and trust that the people who matter will hear you. Thank you for listening. If my story meant something to you, please subscribe and share your own experiences in the comments. Your voice matters, and you belong here.